Welcome back, fight fans, to Everything MMA. We are the coach and the kid. Here to break down another really solid card, Coach. We're going back to the Apex for this one. 2 events in a row in Las Vegas as we anticipate the Chicago card with one of the biggest fights of the year, Chimaev versus du Plessis. But before we get ahead of ourselves there, Coach, a really solid event here. Hernandez versus Dolidze, kind of a stalwart. Both guys are really big in this division, both trending towards that top 10, top 5 area where they're not really close to a title shot, but this win can kind of vault them into getting into that top 5 where you're looking at names like Adesanya, guys like that, DeRitter, who are looking towards that title shot. So this does have title implications here, Coach. I know you're really excited about this event. I know you wanted to talk about the prelims. Tell me about last event and tell me a little bit about early in this event.
Well, it was a fun event. There was a couple of fight of the nights, and
Yeah.
I ended up being 4-2, which was pretty good for me. And you were 5-1, and almost 6-0 should have been actually. But I was enjoying every fight. Frankly, I think it was probably. I talked to some guys, some fighter friends of mine, and they were saying they thought it was like a solid B plus, which is pretty darn good. I'm excited to go back to the Apex because as a casual fan, kind of more casual. I don't know. I'm not even near what you are, but I like the Apex because I like to hear when the coaches are coaching, and I like to hear the punches and all that, which might be kind of weird, but I just think it's more raw. I miss the energy of a big event, but I do like the rawness of the Apex.
I couldn't agree more, Coach. You watched the old Apex fights when we were in the prime of COVID. You got fights like Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier, and you can literally hear every single punch. The commentators, you can not only hear from their mic, but you can hear inside the cage. You can hear all the coaches' advice in between the corners, not only in between rounds, but during the fight as it happens. I think the Apex is super underappreciated. We're going back here for this weekend, Coach. I'm really excited. Take away these prelims.
Well, okay, just to run through it real quick so we're not boring everybody, but and I'm not a bettor, but if I was, these are my picks.
Yep.
I've got Fernandez in the first fight. I've got Arbina in the second. I've got Edwards in the third. I've got Smith in the fourth, and I've got Walker in the fifth. And that's a quick take on all my picks. I could break it down. Fernandez is faster. He's also got the Brazilian power. Urbina is stronger, better grappler. Edwards faster at a striker. Smith with this possible KO. And Walker's, that's going to be a good fight. Really good defense. He's got strength. He's a striker. He's got ground and pound, and that's how he's going to finish. So that's it, real quick.
Yeah, I love those quick picks, Coach. Couple guys to watch on those prelims. I like Julius Walker a lot. You highlighted him in your last prelim of the night. He stepped in on short notice to fight Alonzo Menafield and fought him really close in Seattle. It was a split decision there. So I'm a big fan of his. I think he's one of the more athletic light heavyweights. I like him. Also, Elijah Smith, you highlighted him as well. 22 years old, had a big KO on the Contender Series. Those two are guys to watch, and they'll be in the last 2 prelims of the night, Coach. Let's move right on to the main card.
Sounds good.
And leading off our main card for UFC Fight Night, we have Hernandez versus Christian Leroy Duncan, Coach. And this is a middleweight bout. Both guys have fought up at light heavyweight before. Both are bigger guys for the middleweight division. Really interesting here. Hernandez is getting up there in age. He's 38 years old. This is a guy that was a former Division I football player at Alabama, national champion, Coach. So it's not like one of these guys that just had a cup of coffee in the NCAA. This is a national championship football player, and he's taken on one of the biggest prospects out of the Great Britain area, Christian Leroy Duncan, Coach. I think here, Hernandez, around 32 years old, had the tools and athleticism to take out a guy like Christian Leroy Duncan. But at this point in his career, I think Duncan has gotten better in the grappling. His striking is fairly dynamic for a guy of his size. He's a bigger dude, 6'2" for that division. He's pretty big. Coach, I'm going to let you take this away, but I think Christian Leroy Duncan takes a decision here. Hernandez is a tough dude. I don't think he gets finished. I don't think he gets put out, but I think Duncan is too crafty in every phase of the game, and I think he takes a decision here, Coach. What are you thinking?
Well, we're starting off good because we're split on this. I went back and forth on it. I think that Duncan's a good striker. He should win, but I don't think he will. I think that Anders is really tough, and I think he's a really good wrestler. I think he's going to take him down. And there's a couple of things against him. Like you said, his age and I don't know. I just like Anders. I just think he's a tough dude. He's going to be a tough guy to finish, and that's my take. I'm picking Anders.
I agree, Coach. When Anders gets guys into the later rounds, we saw it against a guy like Marc-Andre Barrialt, they tend to have problems. And I think Christian Leroy is kind of a guy that sits on leads. He's a guy who, he could finish his opponents in a lot of these fights, but he really just sits on that lead and kind of coasts through the fight, and that can lose him a decision. So I can see it going late. Anders could take that round 2 and 3. I don't think there's a finish here, but I think Christian Leroy Duncan gets it done. Coach, we're split on this one. I like it.
Yep, let's go.
Moving on, Coach, to a big bantamweight fight between Miles Chapo Johns and Gene Matsumoto. Coach, I love this matchup. I'm going to let you take this one right away, but I'm a big fan of Gene Matsumoto. He just came off that split decision where I thought he beat Rob Font on really, really short notice. I like this kid. What are you thinking in this matchup, Coach?
I think that I've got Matsumoto too, and I think that he looked great against Font. He's very impressive, 16-1, and that's not padded. He looks real good. The problem with Miles Johns is he's a wild man. He'll come in and he's I think he's too loose, man. He's had some good wins and he's had some close matches, but I just think that Matsumoto is pretty fine tuned.
Yeah.
And I think he's just Miles Johns is too wild, too crazy. And I tend to always go with the Brazilians for some reason, but I'm picking Matsumoto too. I like him, and I think he's just all around better fighter.
I agree, Coach. That's the point that I wanted to speak on about Matsumoto. I think he is one of the most well-rounded prospects that we've seen under 25. I think when these guys come in and they're 22, 23, you have a lot of guys who have raw power, and they're used to knocking guys out on the regional scene because there's not a lot of competition. I think with Matsumoto, just look at the stats. The stats don't tell the whole story, but you see the 5.18 significant strikes per minute, and you see the 2.73 takedown average. He does both. He can take you down. He can strike on the feet. He's dynamic in both areas. There's a threat to finish in both areas, and I love to see that, Coach. Wherever the fight goes, this guy is well-versed, and I think he's going to be too calm, too composed, and too skilled everywhere for Miles Johns. I think it's a second-round submission for Gene Matsumoto.
Yeah, you make some great points. And a lot of times I don't look at those stats, but you pointed them out, and I realized that just goes to show you how well-rounded this guy is. I like it. Yeah, let's move.
I agree, Coach. I think Matsumoto will be trending towards that top 5 at bantamweight. Let's move right on to a big featherweight matchup, Coach. Andre Fili versus Christian Rodriguez. Coach, Andre Fili, a local guy, trains in Sacramento. He's at Team Alpha Male with guys like Josh Emmett, Cody Garbrandt, Uriah Faber. So this guy's close to home, and he's a fan favorite around here, Coach. Big California guy, but he just can never seem to get that win streak put together. It's a win 1, lose 1, win 2, lose another 2. It seems like he just can't pin 2 wins together. Andre Fili has a big issue with that. He'll get a big win, and then all of a sudden you go into a fight with Melquizel Costa, and it looked like he just put his head into that guillotine to get submitted. It looked like he didn't even try, Coach. There was no defense there, and I know he's a well-versed wrestler. You see the takedown average. He averages 2 takedowns per fight, but he literally put his head into the guillotine and watched himself get finished. Christian Rodriguez, coming off the same fate. He lost to Melt Costa as well. For me, Coach, I want to pick Andre Fili here, but there's just not enough to tell me the Andre Fili that I want is the Andre Fili that I'm going to get. I think I'm going to pick Christian Rodriguez here. He's had some huge wins. He beat 3 prospects in a row that were really, really big. He beat Austin Bashi, who I'm high on. He beat Isaac Dolgarian, who I'm high on. And then he beat Raul Rosas Jr., who was kind of the prize of the UFC at the time. He keeps turning back prospects. Christian Rodriguez, for me, is the more reliable guy, Coach. If I thought Andre Fili was going to come in there and fight how he can fight, because he's supremely talented, I would take him. But, Coach, I'm going to go with Christian Rodriguez by decision here.
Yeah, you know what? I went back and forth on this, and I agree with you on some of those things. This is a tough call. I think it's going to go 3 rounds.
Yeah.
The thing about Rodriguez is he can't beat the veterans, though. He's like a B minus wrestler, and I mean everything is a B minus. And you're right. If Fili shows up, he's going to win. And I'm picking Fili only because I think he needs this.
Yeah.
And like I said, Rodriguez can't beat the veterans, and this guy's kind of a veteran. And I think that if he shows up, he's going to win. But like I said, I was going back and forth on this, but I'm going to stay with Feely. I think he's talented enough to do it. It's just a matter of, like you said, sticking his head in that guillotine, man. Is he going to do that? So I'll take, let's split on this one. That'll be cool.
Yeah, I agree, Coach. The thing about Christian Rodriguez is his career trajectory has been so strange. You beat two massive prospects like Raul Rosas and Isaac Dolgarian back to back, and you're kind of trending towards that top 15 where it's like, if this guy can get a couple more wins, he's looking at a top 15 name. So you give him Julian Erosa, a guy who's a launch pad into the top 15, and he gets dominated by Julian Erosa. I couldn't understand it at all. And I think for Christian Rodriguez, he has issues with the scale. He's not a big guy. He's 5'7", fighting at featherweight. This is a guy that should be at 135, but he missed weight multiple times. I don't think Dana will let him go back to bantamweight. He should be at bantamweight. And Andre Fili is a big featherweight. 5'11", he's probably weighing about 170 pounds in the cage. If Fili can take advantage of that length, that reach, and kind of get off to a fast start against Christian Rodriguez, because to me, there's not a lot of finishing potential with Rodriguez. And with Fili, he's a finisher. He is a tried and true finisher. But there's a lot of losses on that record where I just don't understand it from Fili. I'm going to go with the more secure guy. I know what he's bringing to the table. I think Christian Rodriguez takes a decision here, Coach, but I wouldn't be surprised if Andre Fili scratches out a win here because he is tough as nails. His fight IQ just lets him down sometimes, Coach. But I'm going to go with Rodriguez here by decision. Coach is going with Fili. Let's move right on to a women's strawweight fight, Coach, between a wily veteran and an up-and-coming prospect. Yasmin Lucindo is taking on Angela Hill. Coach, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one because I took the last one, but I just wanted to say Neil Magny was my big underdog of the week, and he got it done last week. Angela Hill, to me, is the Neil Magny of the women's divisions. I think she's a very scrappy vet. She'll pin you up against the cage, and she'll work her way to a split decision, whether she wins or loses. I think she's been on the losing side of a lot of these splits where she probably should have won. But she's the same thing as Neil Magny to me, a wily veteran where these prospects are going to have a lot of trouble. Coach, what do you think about this matchup? Where are you going?
I feel the same way, but I'm going with Lucindo.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. I think that's another tough one to call. But you know, with Lucindo being a Brazilian, I usually lean towards the Brazilians, and I think she's going to tie her up. I think it's going to be one of these fights where, you know, Hill's going to want to scrap, and she's going to tie her up and lay on her, and it's tough. I think it's going to go 3 rounds, and I don't think it's going to be that exciting.
Yeah.
I think that Hill's going to want to slug it out, and I think that she's going to get tied up, and it's going to come down to ground time, which I absolutely hate. But you know, you never know. I'm not digging this fight at all. But you know, I'm taking Lucindo.
I agree, Coach. We're on the same side of the fence here. I'm going to go with the younger woman in Lucindo. But props to Angela Hill. She's been around the block at least 5 times in the UFC. She's 40 years old. You see the fight picture down there. She's in great shape. She keeps herself really active. She fights 3-4 times a year, which is really rare in the women's divisions. And Dana's rewarded her. She's still around at 40 years old despite having an 18-14 record. I know these women's divisions aren't super deep, but Coach, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I think Yasmin Lucindo is well-rounded. I think her striking is getting better. The ground game is good. I think there's going to be a lot of clinch work in this fight. Like you said, might not be the most exciting fight, but I think Lucindo takes a decision here.
Hey, one more thing, kid. Yeah. You can see behind me, right? My wall of fame tennis balls.
Of course.
I'm a tennis guy. I'm looking at Angela Hill. This is Angela over the hill. This is Venus Williams in the cage. And you know, it's like Andrew Dice Clay said, she needed the money.
Yeah, Coach. I think the age difference is going to be too much here. I think this is where Angela Hill kind of hits her wall. Lucindo might take over in rounds 2 and 3. I think a lot of the times we see veterans take over in the late rounds. I think it's going to be the opposite here. I think Lucindo is trending up. Angela Hill is trending down. And I think we're going to see that in this fight, Coach.
Yep, let's move on to my boy.
Moving on to one of our favorite fighters in UFC history, Coach. This guy kind of captivated us when he fought for the title on super short notice with only 2 fights in the UFC. Steve Astro Boy Ersk fighting Ode Osborne at bantamweight, coach. Usually a flyweight is Steve Ersk, but had a couple late notice opponent changes. Now is fighting Ode Osborne at bantamweight, up a weight class. Coach, it's so good to see our boy finally get a winnable matchup. He has had so many fights booked where it's like, does this guy have to fight another marauder? As Joe Rogan said, he was fighting Murderers Row, coach. Brandon Moreno. I mean, Alexandre Pantoja, like, he doesn't get a break, coach. Kai Kara France, he fought 3 murderers in a row at 125. He got no breaks. To me, coach, this is finally the UFC saying, let's get you back on track. Let's get you trending towards that top 5. We know you rushed you to the title shot where he potentially could have won if there was not a fight IQ issue in the 5th. I think Steve Ersk could be the flyweight champion of the world. And he's just such a likable guy, coach. I mean, he reminds you of a guy like Michael Scott. He's so unassuming in the cage, and then he's got that badass persona when he steps in there. Coach, I think Steve Ersk takes it to Ode Osborne here. I think Ode's a super explosive guy, and that's what he relies on. He wants that one-punch knockout. We saw him have a couple of those flying knee knockouts and right hand over the top. I think that's what keeps him in the UFC. He's an exciting guy. He's coming in there for the knockout. I like Ode. But I think Steve Ersk is going to have the better footwork. I think he's going to have the better combos. I think Steve Ersk finishes him in the second in kind of a reminiscent performance of that Matt Schnell knockout where he threw a 2 down the pipe and then he had that left hook finish. I think Ersk gets back on track here, gets back in the win column. I think our boy takes it by second round knockout, coach. What are you thinking?
I think that if you can't beat Ozzy Osbourne, then you've got a problem, is what I think. And this is a last-minute fight for Osborne.
Rest in peace, Ozzy, but Adi is going down, and I hope he goes down quick. This was I give him credit because this was a last-minute take.
Yeah.
He just picked up the fight. I think I don't know, man. You're right. It's a layup for Steve, but don't take it like a layup.
Yep.
Take it like a man. Finish this guy quick. Get back in the win column. And start showing what you've got, because I love Ersk. And like, what did you call him? It was from The Office, right?
Michael Scott.
Oh my God, you're dead on. He's so likable. He seems like some guy you'd see at the gym that goes, "Hey man, how's it going? Oh, good to see you. Yeah, you working out?" He's just a good dude, man.
Yeah.
But he's a fierce striker.
He is.
This guy is. He should leave the UFC and become a boxer because he's a great boxer.
Yeah.
He really is. He's fun to watch. And I hope he ends it quick. I mean, props to Adi for taking the fight. But, I want my boy Steve to finish quick. I love that guy.
I agree, coach. He's a fan favorite in this household for the coach and the kid. Coach, it felt like the UFC kind of wanted to rush him back to a title, even after he got rushed to the title shot, because that title fight was so exciting and close, and it felt like he should have won. But, coach, after he got knocked out by fellow countryman Kai Kara France, now you're putting him against Brandon Moreno, who's the number 1 contender.
That sucks.
How does that make any sense? He gets knocked out by the number 4 contender, and now you're back in a number 1 contender fight to fight Brandon Moreno, who has been one of the greatest in the division for the last 5 to 10 years? That made no sense. It was unnecessary damage. I know what the UFC was trying to do. You're trying to get Brandon Moreno a win, or you're trying to get Steve Ersk right back in the title picture. But, coach, after 2 tough defeats like that, especially where he was so close to tasting that title, you got to give him a fight like this where he can prove that he can bounce back. I think this is his first favorable and winnable matchup in a while, and I think he gets this one done by finish, coach.
2 words. Josh Van.
Yep.
I hope this doesn't happen to Josh because we love Josh too, man. Don't rush him along. And when you win a fight, a big fight like that, and they go, "Hey, you can go against the champ." Yeah, let's go. And then oh my God, these guys are young. Of course they're hungry, and it's a shot at the title and fame.
Yep.
And it's also a shot at being forgotten. So anyway, that's our pick. Ersk right away, knockout. I hope.
100%, coach. And I just hope, like you said, I hope there's not that Dominic Reyes syndrome where I know Dom is back on 3 great knockouts in a row, but he was so close to tasting that title against John Jones, and then all of a sudden it was such a steep decline all the way down the slope, 4 losses in a row. I'm hoping it's not the same fate for Steve Ersk here. I think he gets it done. Let's move on, coach. To our main event of the evening. And as we broke down in our intro, coach, while it might not seem like this is super important, this is these guys are both trending towards getting a top 5 matchup in this middleweight division where you're going to fight a guy like Adesanya or you're going to fight a guy up in the rankings like that. Maybe Whitaker coming off a loss fights the winner of this matchup here. Coach, Roman Dolidze is kind of a guy who plots around and throws big bombs, but he's really good off of his back. And I think that's where Anthony Hernandez wants to take the fight. He's a pure wrestler. This is a guy who wants to take you down. You see the takedown average. He averages 6 takedowns per fight. And this is a guy who has been on a big hot streak. He's beat 7 guys in a row in the UFC in this middleweight division. That is incredibly impressive. He's coming off a win against Brendan Allen. His last loss was to strikes from Kevin Holland, coach, and that was way back in 2020. This guy hasn't lost a fight in the middleweight division in 5 years. Roman Dolidze, to me, is kind of a gatekeeper of that top 10. He's a big litmus test, coach, to whether you're going to be around that top 10 to top 15 or you're going to go towards the top 5. To me, Anthony Hernandez's biggest strength plays into the strength of Roman Dolidze. He wants to be on his back. He's a great submission grappler. He's a really good Greco-Roman wrestler. He's got power in his hands. But, coach, for me, I think Anthony Hernandez overwhelms him. I don't think he gives him the chance to submit him off his back. I think Hernandez is too well-versed. To me, the cardio is reminiscent of Merab in middleweight. I think he's kind of a Merab of middleweight. Bigger guy, so the cardio isn't exactly the same. He's not going to be shooting over and over again. But that takedown average at 6 per fight is incredible. Shooting 6 takedowns alone, let alone getting them, is an incredible stat. I know that kind of signifies that he's not holding guys down, but that cardio and pace is really good, coach. I'm going to go Anthony Hernandez by decision here. What are you thinking?
I am too. And he's really fast also.
Yeah.
He's a really good grappler. And I'll tell you, his technique is way better. Roman I think he's good overall.
I agree.
But I think he's easy. I think he's too big, and I think he's easy to hit.
Yep.
I think he, like you said, he plods a little bit.
Yep.
And I think Hernandez, that's an impressive streak that he's got. And I'll tell you, his technique, like I said, is really good, but he's got a really good chin.
Yep.
So I see him taking him, and I don't know how he's going to do it. He could knock this dude out, but I think it's just going to be, it could be like 3 good rounds, nothing incredible. But I think that Hernandez is, like you said, he's like Merab. I think the other reason I want him is because he's from California, and I like that. So, I'm going with Hernandez. I think he's a little bit younger, and he's on a good streak. I know he doesn't want to blow that because that's his ticket to move up. I'm good with my take there.
Yeah.
Hernandez is going to. I think he could finish him. Because he's super quick, like I said.
Yeah. I think a finish comes by way of ground and pound where he kind of gets Dolidze in deep waters late, if there is going to be a finish at all. But, coach, to me, Dolidze wins these matchups with a guy like Marvin Vettori or somebody like that, where he's going to go against another guy who's just going to go blow for blow with him, another guy who can stand with him. I don't think that's going to be Anthony Hernandez here. I think he's going to test the waters on the feet just a little bit, but his path to victory is putting that pace on the bigger guy in Dolidze, a guy who plods a little bit, wants to land that one punch. You're never going to see Dolidze throwing combos and putting 1, 2, 3s together and then throwing the 4 behind it. Like, when we saw Ribovitz last week, that's why I picked him. I knew he was, like I said in that episode last week, punches and bunches. You're never going to see that from Roman Dolidze. And the thing I love about Anthony Hernandez is the pace is never going to fade. It was like when Colby Covington used to fight, coach, at 170. He never had that knockout power, that one-punch power, but you knew he was going to put a pace that was going to be unrelenting on his opponent, and that was going to break a lot of guys. I think it's the same for Anthony Hernandez. When we saw him fight Roman Kopylov, he broke Roman. He got him on the ground, broke him early. I don't think that's going to be really the same here because I think Roman's well-versed on the ground, but I think the overwhelming pressure from Anthony Hernandez is going to be his ticket to winning this fight and getting him a shot into that top 5 because on an 8-fight win streak in the middleweight division, coach, you got to be looking at a name like Adesanya, DeRitter, somebody like that at the top of the division, even a Robert Whitaker coming off a loss. This is a big fight and a big opportunity for Anthony Hernandez. I think he comes through in a big way, and I think this is a showcase for him. He loves these big plodding guys. I think, like I said, Roman's a submission threat off his back, but I don't think Hernandez is even going to give him the chance to get there. I think he takes it by decision, coach. I'm good with mine.
I'm good with mine too, which is the same as yours, and I'm good with the show, man. I think it was great.
Let's do it, coach. Go ahead.
Congratulations on your 5-1 last week.
Thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate it, coach. Not to be skipped over, Coach, you were 4-2 as well. We will be back next week to break down Chimaev versus Duplessis, a massive main event there. Also, co-main event Lerone Murphy versus the new signing Aaron Pico comes at you from Chicago, Coach. We will be there to break everything down. We'll probably have a full card breakdown there because it's such a big card. Coach, it's been good. Let's hope for another 6-0 or 5-1 this week. Everything MMA, we're out. Love you, Coach.
Love you too, kid.